I need to talk to you about this Boyle family vacation that my mom's forcing me to go on. Why is it in Butt Thumb, Iowa?
Now it's pronounced BQ. In Iowa, they say ancestral hormone.
Hello, everybody. This is Rock Hard Caucus. This is our 158th episode. Date right now as we record is August 3rd. You're probably listening to it on a date later than that, though. I shouldn't even date this. It doesn't matter. It's not relevant. Rock Hard Caucus. It's a show about Iowa, mostly. I'm here with Evan, and great news. We have a returning co-host who... I don't know if you actually know this, but it's been over a year since you have been on the show. So welcome back, Natalie. It's good to see you.
Yeah, I'm Natalie. I developed dumb bitch disease where I felt like everything that came out of my mouth made me sound like a dumb bitch. And so I didn't want to put that on recording anymore, but I have recovered. And now I have intelligent bitch disease.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah.
Hell yeah. We're so happy to have you back because I've had dumb boy disease for the last year of doing the podcast with just Justin.
Yeah, that's kind of I think that's sort of a gendered thing, is that we don't actually care how dumb we sound, me and Evan. So yeah, over the next hour or so, listeners out there, decide for yourself, is Natalie a dumb bitch?
Please vote in the comments.
We'll put up a poll, yeah. Okay, before we get into today's subject matter, I do want to apologize to our loyal listeners. Evan and I did not release an episode last week. I was in Minneapolis for the weekend, and we didn't really have time to record anything. While I was in Minneapolis, though, I was visiting our friend Jake, who does listen to our show. Jake, old friend of mine, one of my best friends growing up. He just moved to Seattle, so I was visiting him in Minneapolis right before he left. Now, Jake and I, we're good friends, but most of our communication, we don't communicate that well and that often. But when we do, it's via text. So he doesn't hear my voice in person or on the phone hardly ever. And he listens to our podcast at 1.6 speed. So
this is the correct thing to do. I will die on this hill.
Oh, you listen to the podcast fast?
No, I listen to everything at double speed, 2 times.
Like music
two
also?
Times.
No, not music, no. I'm not a psychopath. No, books and podcasts.
Oh, okay. So double speed, but you listen to it twice.
No, I don't listen to music that way, but books and podcasts I always do.
Yeah, but that's what you said, is that it's double speed and then you listen to it 2 times? Is that what you said?
2 times speed is all I mean.
Oh, I got you. Okay. I wonder, though, because that takes the same amount of time. If you put it at double speed and you listen twice, do you retain it better because you've heard it twice? And in the same amount of time?
Probably.
That might be good, actually.
I mean, that's how music works, right? You have to hear the same piece a couple times and then you understand it better.
Yeah. So anyway, when I was talking to Jake, when I first got to his place, he was a little taken aback, had to get used to real life. My real life
the 1x
speed.
Justin.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll pitch your voice up a little bit doing that. So I'm sure he's your voice is weirdly low.
Yeah, and slow.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to record this message for him here at the top. Hello, Jake. Is this my normal voice? So that'll be an experiment in podcast speed listening. Okay, news. It's been 2 weeks since we recorded. Vance was selected as VP before our last episode, right? I think. We recorded after the RNC. Yeah, because we had Hulk Hogan on.
Yes.
But the thing that kind of brought Natalie back into the world of podcasting is her hatred of JD Vance. I think that's why you're here, right?
My hatred of JD Vance combined with my commitment to reading every horrific stupid book and memoir that is out there.
Right. So, of course, J.D. Vance came into the public consciousness because of his terrible memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, which he proudly states he wrote at the age of 31 in the introduction to the book. Millions of people have read this, unfortunately. I remember hearing the Trillbillies talk about it, 8 years ago or whatever. So we are now going to add to the pile of podcasts about Hillbilly Elegy. Natalie, you listened to the audiobook of this, right?
Yes. Yeah. I usually do audiobooks. So I do want to first of all, one of my favorite podcasts is called If Books Could Kill, and they do a really good episode of this. And I would encourage people to listen to that instead of me, because they do some good research about it and stuff. But if you just want to hear me talk about how stupid I think he is, then you can go on this one. But I do feel like a lot of really smart people that I like read it and liked it at the time. And I do not want to shit on those people, because I don't think that you should have to have your hackles up for a political project when you're reading a fucking memoir. You're supposed to be reading a random dude's life story. You shouldn't have to be is there some kind of ominous political agenda behind this? So a couple of people that I really read this and rated it pretty good 8 years ago, and I am not blaming them. I am blaming the people who work at the New York Times and absolutely should fucking know better, who said that this was good.
Right. And he was treated as a Trump MAGA whisperer at the time. Yeah. This guy understands why the country is revolting against Hillary Clinton.
Yeah. When in reality, he was just reinforcing the smuggest liberals' perceptions of Appalachian people.
Yeah. And he was coming as I come from this culture. So I say we are a culture and community in crisis. We are rotten from the top down, etc. And I think that self-effacing element of it is what the worst people in the world love so much. They're he's one of us, but you're right. We don't have to have empathy for these people. You're so right, JD Vance.
Yeah. And I know, because I'm one of them.
Yeah. I think people liberals who were really confused at the time were really looking for an excuse to be fuck these people. And this gave it to them. And that's what kind of made it so big. But I really don't blame the people who just picked up a memoir and were not braced for Charles Murray.
Right. Who is name checked twice. I checked in
name
the
checked
book.
Twice. and he ends up doing a talk about this book. It's just, he's deep in the race science and stuff, but you don't have to know that. You should just be able to pick up a book that's oh, this is the memoir of growing up. That's all it says. And not have to expect that there's something ominous about it. I do not blame normal people for liking it. But I do blame the people whose entire job is to read books for writing glowing reviews. Your whole job is to know what the fuck is going on. And if you're a big reader, this is pretty obvious, blatant, awful stuff. I don't know.
He was a never Trump guy though. So, I mean, that means that he was good. He was on the right side.
I think I coerced Justin into putting the TikTok song in this episode because I just listen to it all the time.
Yeah, the end of this episode will be playing some shit from TikTok. That'll be our closing music. What about the movie? Have you seen the movie adaptation?
I have not seen the movie.
Yeah,
I think
same.
Evan has, right? And
I have not, but it's so funny that it's Ron Howard. I mean, it perfectly, that's perfectly lines up with what we've already been saying. Of course Ron Howard made the movie. It's
my understanding they strip all of the politics out of it, and it's just his life story, which I will die on this hill. As someone who comes from a fucking trashy family, is not that bad. Nothing about his childhood is that bad. I have way worse stories. It does not sustain an entire movie. I'm sorry that your mom was an addict, but both my parents were. Eat my whole butt. This is not bad enough to be about. Absent the political agenda, it exists to prop up his opinions about the world. None of these stories. I read a lot of crazy memoirs. It's my favorite thing. And Jill Duggar's memoir, 10 million times better. Should have sold way more copies. It's way crazier. There's nothing interesting
about it. Is Jill
about
the
this.
one who is broken away from the family?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
There are two like memoirs of the Duggars that were like the I broke away one. And one of them is just like the worst Jesus memoir. And that is Jingers.
Jinger Duggar.
Wow.
That's how they spelled it.
It's like ginger, but with a J.
Yeah. But Jill's is like genuinely good. I wanted to like end this by suggesting a couple of books that I really like that I think do this better. And that's kind of one of them. It's not like, it's obviously a different region and stuff, but like if you're just looking for like, oh my God, you wouldn't believe how crazy my family was, just read Joe's memoir. You don't need to read this. This is boring.
Okay, so he talks about, or he tries to portray his family life as like awful growing up. And I've read the introduction and conclusion to the book. That's all that I've read.
The introduction, he says this book is boring as shit. Like I haven't done anything except for go to Yale.
Yeah. It's basically like, you shouldn't read this. I'm not interesting.
Yeah, it's really not. I will tell all the listeners about all the craziest tea about his life. I promise to tell you. It's not that good, but I will tell you. So it opens with a citation of Charles Murray because he's a fucking race scientist. Again, like there a lot smarter people than me have talked about the racial politics of this book. That would be a If Books Could Kill thing because they do talk about that for a while. And I think it's better than what I can say. But he does like to pretend that like race has no impact because there are poor white people. And that's kind of his like philosophy. But
yeah, isn't there a bit in the intro that's like, please try to view this not through a racial lens. Try not to think about race while reading this.
Yes, he opens it that way. He like really wants to just sidestep the entire fucking issue. He also does a thing where he like is pretending he's writing. He was reviewed as though he was writing a sociological profile, like he's some kind of academic who understands this stuff. And there are like 3 citations in the entire book. Like none of this is database. He's just talking out his fucking ass. It opens with, it's just like a series of Reagan ads in a trench coat. Like this book opens with, this like lazy guy worked at the tile factory with him and got fired. And he's like, how dare you do this to me? So I have a couple quotes about hard work in that part that I think are really good. So he says, Appalachia had too many men that are allergic to hard work. You can walk through Middletown and find men working 20 hours a week, but not one man aware of his own laziness. He said, Appalachians are hardworking, except for the many food stamp recipients who show no interest in honest work. It is noted that his grandmother was able to feed him with food stamps, but that's different.
Other people didn't have kids that needed food. They just got food stamps because they were lazy.
The hills are full of people who can find the time to make 8 children, but not the time to support them.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of those things takes less time.
Practice the word 8 children. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, that's still kind of a lot of time, though. 8 times 9 months. Plus fucking.
That's true.
That fucking is 5 to 10 minutes. So that really happens.
That's generous.
I don't want to move on from the tile warehouse guy too quickly because there was a part of that story that I thought was very kind of revealing of J.D. Vance's character.
Yeah, just read the tile warehouse story. I should have wrote it down.
Yeah, the guy, this guy Bob, who worked with him at the tile warehouse. Bob was 19 with a pregnant girlfriend. The manager kindly offered the girlfriend a clerical position answering phones. Both of them were terrible workers. But the part that I thought was like extremely weird is Bob often took 3 or 4 daily bathroom breaks.
3 or 4? What the fuck? What are you doing in there, man?
In 8 hours, he pissed 3 times? That's absurd.
Horrifying. Yeah, so that fact by itself is supposed to be like, isn't that crazy? He pees 4 times a day.
Wait, J.D. Vance is a Diet Mountain Dew guy. That stuff makes you piss real fast.
Yeah.
Come on.
Racist pee.
You can't say this with cancel culture how it is.
So Bob takes 3 or 4 daily bathroom breaks, each over half an hour. So that's a little unusual to be in there that long. But You know, that's what I did when I had an office job, is just go to the bathroom for as long as possible.
For sure.
TikToks on the toilet. You take all your shits at work. Everyone knows that.
Of course, yeah. It became so bad that by the end of my tenure, another employee and I made a game of it. We'd set a timer when he went to the bathroom and shout the major milestones through the warehouse. 35 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour.
See, that's a fun blue-collar thing to do. I mean, you don't have to write about it in a book, but that sounds like a lot of what blue-collar guys do. Give people hell for shitting.
I think the average office worker works like 3 hours out of an 8-hour day. So if he's in an 8-hour day and he's shitting for an hour and a half of it, that's still 6.5 hours of work, which is double what JD Vance does. Right.
It's a manual labor job. So it's like you have to be, every single minute is accounted for because you don't deserve any rest.
That's kind of what he's saying. Like, do you know how much time like the normal office person dicks off during the day?
Boss makes $1, I make a dime.
Yeah.
If I'm at a job and I have a computer in front of me, that computer has access to the world's knowledge. Like, you think I'm just going to be doing whatever goes on in this office? No, I can read a whole book at my desk.
So this whole book is just advocating for bathroom passes, like hall room passes for high schoolers.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. I just, like the idea that this is like somebody who is at an equal level to him. This is a coworker, and he's just like, hey, keeping an eye on how often he's in the bathroom.
About it.
This is how this guy ended up going to a fucking Ivy League school and becoming the vice presidential candidate. Just pushing everyone around him down, climbing on top of them. Yeah, evil.
You have to be so psycho. Like, I had someone I worked with at an office once tell my boss what time I got there and that my contract was supposed to start at this time.
Ugh.
And it's like, oh my God. Like, do you have nothing fucking better to do? I couldn't even tell you, like, I couldn't even name anyone in your family. I don't know anything about you. I don't pay attention to where you go ever. I am like I am completely occupied with my own business. Like, I cannot imagine paying attention to the bathroom habits. I would be like, hell yeah, man. Or like, maybe you need some fiber capsules for your IBS, but like,
yeah, right. That's another element of this that is like, you don't know what kind of like intestinal problems this guy has, Mm-hmm. I mean, you're implying that he's a drug addict, so that, there's health problems associated with that.
That's true. Certain substances will make you not want to poop at all. It might take longer than half an hour.
Right. Exactly. There is, of course, this big controversy over whether JD Vance in his youth, used family furniture to pleasure himself, right? Like, I'm sure you guys have seen some of that. Is it in the book? Is it not in the book? Was it in an earlier printing? Whatever. I mean, I downloaded like a PDF of this on some shady website. And I also found a copy of the audiobook. So whatever copy of this I found must have been not what's on the shelves now, because it included this bit. This is just from the introduction right here.
My name is JD Vance, and I think I should start with a confession. I fuck couch. I am not a senator. I am pervert, and a perverted one at that. I love fucking couches.
That's like page 2, and people are acting like they can't figure out if this is in the book or not. Like, you heard it right there.
Like, you forgot about reading that? This book was on the bestseller list for months.
I'm so glad that you genuinely used me telling you where he says pervert in the book.
I am pervert.
Like, at this exact moment, he says the word pervert if you want it. Okay, my thoughts about the couch thing were to just like play it completely straight and pretend that it was in the book. But I do think there is like something useful to be said about it that requires admitting that it's not in the book.
Yeah.
Which is, it is so fucking believable, because I've read like 5 million of these like dumbass memoirs. I can't get enough of them. As mentioned, I've read all the Duggar memoirs. I read all of Sarah Palin's books, like, just awful. And there is always like some extremely bizarre humanizing anecdote that they think makes it sound like they're an everyman or every woman.
Mm-hmm.
And like Kristi Noem is like a national political figure when she published her book, and she still fucking put in there that she shot her puppy. So like it is entirely within the realm of possibility that someone who was writing a book where they were going to attempt to humanize themselves as like a Yale freak would put a jerk off story in there.
Right.
And also, I think it is fine for 15-year-olds to fuck all the couches they want. That sounds like an extremely
put a
normal.
Towel down, though. Come on.
Yeah.
There's other people. There's a couch can't consent. It's an inanimate object, but there are other people who might use that couch. So you got to be respectful of them too.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, if our listeners put a bag of lube in their couch, I want you to know I support you. That is fine.
Yeah, I mean, we've all been teenagers. You know what runs through your mind, the extreme desperation.
Yeah,
it's just humping stuff. That's what they do.
Yeah, and it's universal. Girls do it. Everyone improvises. You know,
everyone does it. It's just like part of being a teenager, and it like makes sense as like the kind of like freaky humanizing anecdotes you would put in and then pull later. So I think that's why it's like so resonant, is because it's like so incredibly believable for a shitpost. And I admire it so much. I have dreamt of achieving such shitposting my entire life. And I think it's a work of art. I think it's better than anything that JD Vance wrote in this book. So that is my thoughts about the couch thing. I wanted to play it straight and pretend that it was in there, which I think is a good bit, but I do think there is like kind of a reason that it took off. And it should be encouraged.
Yeah, and he is an extremely public figure, so it's okay to lie about him, morally, ethically, and legally. So
he loves to lie, so it's fine. This whole book is a fucking lie. There are like 10 stories in here that I'm like, that did not happen.
And he jumped on the dog pile of that like Olympic boxing thing, like calling that woman a man or whatever, just yesterday or whatever.
Yeah,
so like he fucked a couch. I don't care.
Yeah, he did fuck a couch. Yeah, he probably had sex with animals. Who knows? Just whatever you say. Okay, so one of my biggest problems with this book is like not really the political project, but the fact that this man is not fucking from Appalachia. Not even his fucking mama is from Appalachia. She left Appalachia when she was 13 years old. And they are from like an hour outside of Cincinnati. They live in fucking Ohio. Like, I think there's an argument probably that some parts of Ohio are Appalachia, but not where he fucking lives. He's not from Jackson, Kentucky. His family was from Jackson, Kentucky 3 generations ago. This does not fucking count. Like,
he's a suburbs boy, right?
He's a suburbs boy. He is the guy from Naperville who tells you he's from Chicago. It's so bad. Like, you literally don't know anything about Kentucky. It's not like he visited there, but his grandma didn't even live there by the time he was born. He tries to like claim he visited his grandma there, but like it's crazy. Like, you are not from Jackson, Kentucky. Like,
I think I saw. Is there a great grandma involved in the story as well?
Yes, the great grandma is in Jackson, Kentucky.
Okay,
but the mama that raised him, that the book is kind of about, lives in Ohio. Moved to Ohio when she was 13 because his rapist ass grandpa got her pregnant and would have been charged with a crime because she's 13. So they had to flee.
Is that Pawpaw, the guy who's still around in the book? Oh, okay.
He's dead, but yeah.
Well, not around now, but he's around for the stories in the book.
Yeah. So like all of our grandparents, his grandparents started with some kind of horrific crime from his grandpa to his grandma. Everyone's grandma tells them a story that's like, here's the adorable story of how you met. And you're like, Grandma, that's illegal.
Yeah, I was 9, you know.
Yeah. He was 26 and he just pursued me relentlessly because he loved me so much. Like, Jesus Christ.
He basically abducted me, purchased me from the family.
Every story our grandma tells is just absolute horrors. And they tell it so straight, like it's completely normal.
Yeah. It was a different time.
Isn't it? Why did you have to flee Jackson if it was a different time?
There was a different idea of what constituted justice in our community, and the consequences of taking a child bride. The times were changing.
Yeah. So at the time, I'm sure her dad would have shot him if they didn't leave. So they did. I can't get over the location thing. I'm like, my grandma grew up in Orlando. Can I write a memoir about how I'm from Disneyland and understand the Disneyland culture? Like,
well, you've already made a fatal mistake because it's Disney World over there in Florida.
You're right. It's Disney World. Disneyland in California.
Yeah. You'd be caught in a lie.
Yeah, not very authentic memoir.
Okay, so all the tea of the bad stuff that happened to him before I talk about him being at Yale, which is where all of his most egregious lies come from.
Mm-hmm.
So his childhood trauma is his mom beat him up once and got charged with domestic violence. And then there was a trial, and he had to go and like downplay it at the trial, which is like, that's awful. Like genuinely a horrible feeling. And then another time he had to give his mom clean piss because she was going to fail a drug test. And after that, he moved in with his quote unquote mama.
Mm-hmm.
That's bad. Like, I'm not saying it's not bad, but that's kind of it. Like, I just really expected, like, there's some like fun stories that seem very apocryphal about his like older relatives, like pulling guns on each other and beating each other up. It seemed like all in very good fun, to be honest.
He's enjoying this all a little bit too much. He's like, just let me take you through my terrible family. Like,
yeah.
As we discuss these like sordid details, can I just read one brief excerpt also from the introduction?
Yeah. Just as I read the introduction, so I'm going to read all of them.
Let me read the whole introduction to you. No, but just some context for like, you said his mom beat him and like he ended up in court having to like sort of lie about it. This is from the intro. If I leave you with the impression that there are bad people in my life, then I am sorry. There are no villains in this story. Well, what? Are you sure? That sounds like a pretty bad thing.
Villainous papa and your like addict beating mom. I don't know. Like those aren't good stuff.
Also, sharing clean piss, that's just what family does. I mean, like, come on. They're all in this together.
I'm not so sure that part's, that bad. I would do that for anyone, really.
Well, we don't know what drug this was at that time. Like, it could have been just, like, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And his, like, hero, his mama, is the one who told him to do it. So, like, I don't know. I have a real problem with the word mama. Oh, the other thing is, like, he, like, trots out these, like, horrors with his mama and then turns them as, like, really sexist shit. So, like, there's a quote that said, "Mom had mama's fire," meaning she never, emphasis mine, allowed herself to become a victim in domestic disputes. So, like,
yeah, okay, allowed.
Yeah, he implies that if your husband beats you, it's because of your victim mindset, which is, like, very crazy to me.
You don't got that fire in your belly, like my Meemaw.
What are you talking about? And there's a whole, so, like, his rapist-ass grandpa was, like, an alcoholic and, like, very abusive to his mama, but he, like, doesn't understand anything about abuse dynamics. So he's like, well, sometimes she hit him back. So she wasn't a victim. And it's like, that's called reactive abuse. And it's like super normal to like get pushed to the point that you try to hit back and then to use that to be like, he wasn't really abusing you. You were abusing each other.
Yeah. To muddy the waters. Like if you ever fight back, it's like, well,
this is a mutual abuse situation.
Right.
Yeah.
Although he does tell one story about Mama dumping gasoline on him and then dropping a match on him and then...
wait, on her husband or JD?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
On her husband. And then one of the daughters jumps in and puts out the fire. That sounds like a lie to me.
Yeah, that's...
That's so extreme. It's like an Eminem song. I just don't think that... I don't think that really happened.
Speaking of Eminem, that's another. He would be a good. He should be Kamala's VP. He's a good counter to JD Vance, I think.
Yeah.
Another troubled childhood and, coming up from nothing. And he's a lib.
And he has better politics than JD Vance.
He does have better politics. I was just talking to my husband about that the other day because they were playing a Kid Rock song at the Valley Junction Farmers Market. And I was like, why not Eminem? Like, same thing, but better.
Right.
Anyway, so he goes through like he's just a fucking liar and he doesn't believe in anything. He talks a little bit about his religious background. His biological father is like a Pentecostal psychopath and is kind of in and out of his life. He blames his mom for that, of course. Not his dad for leaving him and letting him get adopted by a stepdad, which he did. But his mom for being a whore. It's just like the whole book is like absolutely dripping with mommy issues. You see exactly where he got his abortion bullshit because he is extremely fucking pissed at his mom. Mm-hmm. And it's fine to be pissed at your mom. Your mom beat you up and made you lie about it. That really sucks. You can be pissed at your mom. But like to then be like, rape and incest victims cannot get abortions is a pretty extreme reaction to that.
Yeah, don't make it everybody else's problem.
He's making it literally everyone's problem. But what he took from Pentecostalism is that he didn't know if he really believes in it, but he does believe that God helps those that help themselves. So he went to church and reinforced all of his own opinions.
That's what God is for.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the whole point is, almost.
Just conjure up kind of an external validation of everything that you think.
Yeah.
So those are like the big beats of his childhood. Again, I'm not like saying it's good. Maybe I'm just saying my family is fucking monstrous and trashy. I don't know, but it's just not bad.
It's
enough.
Exploitative too.
Yeah. Yes.
It's like you're exploiting your family to like promote your political agenda, which is creepy and weird.
His mom is obviously extremely sick. Like she goes to rehab multiple times. She is clearly fucking struggling, like is clearly a very sick woman. And like, I just think that this is kind of a fucked up way to deal with that. And he's like, obviously he's very opposed to therapy and is like, I would simply never do that gay shit.
Really?
Wow.
He doesn't call it gay, but he implies.
Sure.
He says, I won't do therapy because, whatever. He said he went to one therapist appointment and it wasn't for him because it was just, he just essentially said it was too girly. I don't remember the.
Yeah, that's kind of the story with guys like him is like, I went once and it didn't work. So
yeah.
And I'm not exactly a big therapy proponent. I've never really done it myself, but like, if your upbringing was this bad, maybe it would help to try it a few more times.
You have to go multiple times, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You cannot be fixed in one session. But so then he goes into Marines and the Marines made him into a man. And he says a really insane quote about how it means that no matter how inconvenient he is, he will always go out of his way to shake a veteran's hand.
Oh my God.
Wow, that's not performative at all.
You should Control F the document for it so you can find it. Like veteran or a handshake or something.
Yeah.
And he is not a fucking real ass Marine. He's a public affairs Marine. And that apparently means you write press releases and are embedded as a propaganda man.
That is perfect for him. You can just say you're a Marine, which is the most hardcore guys, and then you're actually a fucking receptionist. I'm just surprised that he didn't say I'm not a senator, governor, or former cabinet secretary yet, but I hope to change this by writing this stupid ass book.
Yeah, having that be right at the beginning, I'm not a senator. It's sort of revealing of why did he write this book?
Yeah, come on, man.
Yeah. I did find the shaking hands thing.
Okay.
And the surrounding paragraph is pretty funny. I choke up when I hear Lee Greenwood's cheesy anthem, Proud to be an American.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
I love that song, but yeah.
When I was 16, I vowed that every time I met a veteran, I would go out of my way to shake his or her hand. even if I had to awkwardly interject to do so. I imagine it's an awkward interjection every single time, judging by what I've seen of his body language and everything. Yeah.
Hey man, can I shake your hand? Like, come on.
Thank you for your service. Oh, I served too, by the way. But
yeah.
I was a Marine, which is probably more hardcore than whatever you were.
Yeah, what was your highest rank? What kind of accolades you got?
The thing about the vibe of this book that I find really funny is like this man came out of the womb wanting to be a senator. He was born as the most ambitious, like he is just like ambition personified. And he acts like this like country bumpkin who like stumbled into he acts like he was like, and then I thought I should go to law school and I thought, why not Yale? Like and he's like, I needed money to pay for college like many Appalachian boys. So that's why I went into it's like, no, you went into the Marines in a cushy ass position specifically because you wanted to become a senator. Like everything he ever did, he's like, I needed a part-time job. So I became an aide to a senator at the state house. It's like, what the fuck? That's not a normal part-time job. Like you were born wanting to do this and that's fine. But like, you can't pretend you are like some like a humble country boy who like stumbled into Yale. That's crazy.
Yeah, I accidentally got a job that most people don't know exists.
Yeah.
Listen, he met Tiger Mom, and then she just imparted all of her shit onto him. That's where the ambition came from. It's all the Tiger Mom mentorship.
I'm so glad you know that. Did you know that that's an actual thing in the book?
Oh,
him and his wife were both mentored by her,
Amy Chua,
who has been in the news for her and her husband having very inappropriate relationships with students and being way too involved in their lives. I don't think she had any
drink with them.
Yeah, like her husband had like sexual allegations. I don't think she did, but she was definitely like boozing and
inappropriate,
throwing parties and stuff, and like she was also like very insistent on getting careers for all of her mentees, and like obviously like very powerful person within the her and her husband, powerful people within Yale.
Oh yeah, she's listed in the acknowledgments. She deserves the most credit for this book's existence. Amy
Apparently
Chua.
She was the one who told him to write it.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so he goes to the Marines. It's really boring. He just says a bunch of stuff about how it made him into a man. It sucks. It's terrible. He goes to Ohio State, and then he, randomly ends up at Yale because he thought he wanted to go to law school because he said, the richest people I saw around me in Appalachia were lawyers. So I figured you have to want to go to Yale so fucking bad. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't just accidentally go there. It's crazy.
Yeah,
for sure.
I thought college might be for me. The only school I'd ever heard of was Yale.
It's so fucking nuts. Okay, wait, I have to go back really quick. One quick thing. Okay, so he worked at a grocery store. He worked at like a bunch of like, I think that's a part of it too. He worked at a grocery store and a tile place and whatever so that he would have these stories. And so he worked at a grocery store and he claimed that he would see his drug addict neighbors buy T-bone steak using food stamps.
This classic story.
God.
Which is like the oldest like Reagan-ass urban legend.
Yeah.
And then he also said that they would commit fraud by going and ringing up food and booze, cigarettes, etc. separately, which is absolutely not fucking fraud.
How's that fraudulent?
That is how money works. You are still allowed to use cash to purchase things if you have food stamps.
Right.
What the fuck are you talking about? That is not his only example. He claims that all of these people are committing welfare fraud, and his only example is absolutely not fraud. If you can only buy food with food stamps. You have to buy other things to live.
That's what they did.
This is what they did.
Yeah. You're not allowed to have any other money. What the fuck?
No. That's why you're on food stamps, is because you have zero money.
You have nothing at all.
Zero. Yeah. Absolutely none.
If I see you with a fucking dime, I know you're lying to the government. You're scamming us all. My taxes pay for your groceries, goddammit.
And he does the classic thing maybe you should look up the entire quote about search the word layaway maybe, or credit, or he does a whole quote about buying TVs on credit. And he does the thing where they're like, the people at the grocery line with their iPhones. And it's like, no one can fucking survive without a phone. What are you talking about? Like, this is not a like luxury. Also, TVs cost like $3 now. Like, how old are you? Like, he's just like mining old advertisements that like, are you able to find it? I'm trying to think of what word I should use.
I don't see anything for layaway, but there's a lot of credit. Let me see here.
Designer clothes, maybe, because he talks about how like you put your kids in designer clothes and then file bankruptcy. It's a pretty good quote.
Oh yeah, people love to do that. Like, people love filing for bankruptcy for their own personal benefit.
We all do it.
There's there's zero consequences for such a thing.
Yeah, just tank your credit for 7 years so your kids can wear Nike. Like, that's not a thing. Like, no one does that.
I see something about the owners of Dillman's allowed people with good credit to run grocery tabs.
Oh yeah, that's a different thing. It's about buying stuff for your kids, and they like. I'm sorry. It's a good one, but I should have been responsible enough to find it ahead of time.
This is just irresponsible of you to not write down this quote.
While you're looking for that, I can say he does like this like payday lender defense that's kind of fun. Did you find it?
Oh my god, really? He defends the worst people in society?
So he defends payday loans, but he has a problem with like people renting to own furniture.
Okay, Justin, read it first, and then I'll tell you about the payday lender.
Yeah, I think I've got what you're talking about here. This was my world, a world of truly irrational behavior. Yeah, I think that's probably our world too, right? Just a world of irrational behavior. I think everyone lives there.
Yep. That's why economics is fucking stupid.
We spend our way into the poorhouse. We buy giant TVs and iPads. Giant iPads. Our children wear nice clothes thanks to high interest credit cards and payday loans.
And the slave labor that we exploit internationally.
Right. Yeah. We purchase homes we don't need. Who's doing that?
What a useless object, a home. I don't need this home.
And he's talking about poor people doing this, not rich people. Right. Like, that's kind of a whole thing. Like, real estate.
And again, this is how we spend our way into the poorhouse, is by buying a home. Yeah. It seems counterintuitive. Okay, we purchase homes we don't need, refinance them for more spending money. What the fuck are you talking about?
What the fuck? Don't refinance.
Yeah, like what the fuck? You're being mad these people are trying to reduce the interest rate on the most valuable thing they own. Like, what the fuck?
They're just doing it so they can buy another fucking iPad.
One, it is smart to refinance. Two, you have to pay closing costs. It's like $3,000. Like, it's not something you just like do for no reason.
Yeah. You can't just go in there, every month.
A refinancing is not a home equity loan. Those are two different things.
So they purchase the homes they don't need, refinance them, declare bankruptcy, often leaving them full of garbage in our wake.
They don't let you refinance if you're close to bankruptcy either.
Yeah, right.
You have to have money. You have to prove that you can pay before they let you do that.
Yeah. Also, if I'm getting kicked out of my home, I don't really care if I'm leaving garbage behind. Put yourself in their shoes. That's basically the bank stealing your home from you. So do you want to leave it like nice and clean for the bank that's stealing your home, or do you want to leave shit all over the place? I mean, I know where my head would be at. Yeah, it kind of just goes on like that.
It goes on forever.
Thrift is inimical to our being. Inimical? Thrift is inimical to our being.
He like tries to sell this by saying like our instead of their. Right. That's like what his strategy to make this seem okay.
If I lump myself in with them, then it's not like me shitting on people who are worse off than me.
Yeah.
But he never does like a single thing that he says here. So like, I don't know. Okay. So the payday thing. So he works for a senator, and there's an attempt to rein in payday lenders, which is obviously extremely good to do. And
right.
Everyone should think so. And he's like, the people in Appalachia, like, I used a payday lender. And by doing that, because my paycheck was coming on Friday and I was going to get an overdraft fee with my bills. So I did a 1-day payday loan and paid it off the next day. And I was able to avoid a $50 overdraft fee. And the politicians, they're ignoring stories like mine.
Are you fucking kidding me? That's insane.
Like mine. The important story of how I avoided an overdraft fee by taking a payday loan for 1 day.
Did he mention the interest rate on the loan?
The tragic tales like mine, they're ignoring them.
Yeah. A guy who's fine and used a payday loan to avoid a $50 fee once. That's not really what the business is about, I don't think.
No. I do think that there is like an interesting argument to be made about payday lenders because of like the dearth of access to like actual high quality banks in certain areas. Yeah. But the answer to that is to make government funded credit unions. It is not to let people lend money at 40% interest and like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
It's like to offer bank at the post office. That's the answer. Mm-hmm. Like, yes, like it is kind of a problem. I think like that some people do not have access to like a good bank and they like maybe can't keep the minimum for a credit, you know, whatever. Yeah. There are like reasons that these exist and fill a gap, but like we could simply offer banking services that are normal instead of being like, yes, we should let people charge like a bazillion% interest so that you can have money 1 day early and that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, like they do not make their money off people who take a payday loan and then pay back the next day. They make their money off of people who are trapped in a cycle for the rest of their lives.
Yeah, people who end up there because they have like this is like the last straw and like
the last resort.
They're trapped. Yeah,
and are like it's like so fucking predatory. I don't know. But he's not even making the argument of like there's no access to banking services because the answer is simply to have banking services at the post office or whatever. Like, and he doesn't want that to be the case. He is like a venture capital psychopath and he likes payday loans.
Yeah.
It seems like his real takeaway in this book, because I did read the conclusion as well, is that the government cannot solve any of these problems. It's a social problem, and the only way to fix life for these poor hillbillies is for them to get their minds right.
Yeah.
And just be good.
Yeah. He's defending a predatory company that tries to like entrap the most desperate people that he just wrote an entire book about how they like can't resist, like they're too like stupid to like resist any of like drugs or like is there does he have any solutions? Like I think it's funny that he does mention like, oh yeah, like, you know, he talks about like the hollowing out of manufacturing and like job loss and all that stuff. But he says like they're making the worst of a bad situation. Like basically that they were dealt a bad hand, but they're making it worse. So how do they make it better? You know?
His only solution is to have less welfare.
Okay, great.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. He says that a couple different times. And he is just, it's so weird because he's basically like, this is a horrendous problem and nothing can be done about it. It's their own fucking fault. And so we should okay, let's say that this is true. Let's say that the biggest issue is a rotten ass culture. Like, what the fuck are you supposed to do about a rotten ass culture when you could do things to alleviate the fact that people are starving very simply, which is like, more food assistance. And like, sure, you're not fixing the culture, but at least people aren't starving. I don't know. Like, what do you want us to do about this? If this is true, like, why are you even a politician if you don't think that anything can be done to fix any problem?
Yeah. And I do want to stress that, like, it's not the culture. Like,
yeah, it's not the culture.
The cause is the lack of resources, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. That kind of leads to, it's a interlocking circle, you know?
Yeah, life gets worse because you have nothing. You don't lose everything because you suck.
And I do think like with money issues, there are some like interesting cultural stuff about poverty that is true, which is like if you have absolutely fucking nothing and you do a scratch off and you get $5,000, oftentimes people in that situation are not going to invest that. It's going to be like, this is my only opportunity to ever get something awesome, basically. Right. Mm-hmm. And like, you're going to, you know what I mean? Like you'll see like stories about like someone impoverished and they get like a chunk of money and they just blow it. And it's like, yeah, because you will never, ever, ever have a chance to do anything that makes you that happy again. You know, it's oftentimes like, okay, I'm going to throw a big party. Like, this is my one chance. And I don't think that's irresponsible. I think that's like desperation and survival. And like, you know, there are some like different ways that people see money, because if you always have it, then you're like, yeah, of course I can invest it because it'll be there in the future.
Yeah. The people can't even imagine what a better life looks like.
Yeah.
So and like, it's definitely not JD Vance's life. Like, no normal person wants to aspire to be what JD Vance is. Like,
and people, you know, people who are better off see a story like that where they blew all of their scratch off money right away. They see that and they think, this person is so stupid. I know so much more about life and money than they do. But it's like what you're describing, Natalie, like they understand the circumstances of their life way better than the people like shitting on them for doing that. Like they know that like, this is the only time I've ever had money. I better like use it while I've got it to do something cool. Yeah.
Or like something sort of community based, like sharing it around with like a big ass party or something. Like, it's just like, I don't know. I do think that there are like being deprived causes like certain cultural factors that don't always seem rational, but like it is ultimately, if you're like trying to have empathy for people, it is understandable. I don't know.
Yeah. I think it makes sense.
This is kind of a good transition into my next thing, which is like his take on Obama. Which, like, I just wrote bad, dumb take on Obama at 74%. I'm an audiobook person. And so he makes this, like, wild ass claim. And he says, you could probably find it.
I might have it pulled up already.
Will you just find it and read it?
Mines?
I can't remember.
Well, okay. The page I was already on has Obama shut down the coal mines or all the jobs went to the Chinese.
He acknowledges that there are no jobs, and then he's like, why are these people working 20 hours a week? Fucking lazy. Like, there's no jobs. I feel like, so he talks about like how it was not racism that elected Obama. It's like 74% of the way into the book.
Okay. I've got significant percentages of white conservatives believe that Barack Obama is a Muslim. Was it that part?
No. So basically what he says is the reason that people in Appalachia, I don't know which way you say it.
I think it's Asha. Yeah.
Hate Obama is because meritocracy worked for him and they don't recognize themselves in him. They're like, he wears a suit to work every day and we wear overalls. He, has 2 college degrees and we, are lucky to finish high school. He, is a constitutional law professor and he talks like it. If you look up constitutional law, that'll pull it up.
Yeah, I think I've got what you're talking about right here. Many of my new friends blame racism for this perception of the president, him being, they see him as a Muslim or whatever. I would tend to blame racism for that specifically. I mean, I don't think him like being, I don't know how you've like decide he's a Muslim and be angry about that for any other reason. But yeah, the president feels like an alien to many Middletonians for reasons that have nothing to do with skin color. Recall that not a single one of my high school classmates attended an Ivy League school. Did any of ours?
No.
I don't know. Yeah.
Most people don't. I don't know.
It's probably normal, right?
Yeah.
Barack Obama attended 2 of them and excelled at both. He is brilliant, wealthy, and speaks like a constitutional law professor, which of course he is. Nothing about him bears any resemblance to the people I admired growing up.
Okay, so he wrote an op-ed about Obama when he left office about how much he admired Barack Obama as a man and a father and whatever. And like, they're kind of the same guy in some ways. Like,
yeah. Oh wait, he says
sure,
something
I can
about
see
like
that. Yeah.
he. If you keep reading that quote, he says Barack Obama's a good father and Appalachians are dog shit.
Yeah. Barack Obama strikes at the heart of our deepest insecurities. He's a good father while many of us aren't. He wears suits to his job while we wear overalls. If we're lucky enough to have a job at all. Has he ever worn overalls?
No, of course not. Here's my problem with this. He is describing every single president that was ever fucking elected.
Mm-hmm.
So explain how these people voted for George W. Bush, who is the senator's son. Like, every single president wears a suit and went to Yale. Always.
Right.
But so why did they vote for George W. Bush and not Obama? It doesn't make any fucking sense. What are you talking about? The deflection
from racism does not really work here. Yeah.
It does not work here. It's insane. Every single president has been a man who went to an Ivy League school and wears a suit to work. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Why is this one different? It doesn't make any sense.
There's one small difference with this one.
Like, he is describing every single president. Like, that doesn't explain it at all. Okay, so he goes to Yale. We're almost sort of to the end of the book. And the part in Yale is where he tells his most lies. First of all, he tells an anecdote where he claims that he transformed a professor's view of state schools in a single semester, where there was supposedly a professor who claimed that they shouldn't let anyone who goes to a state school into Yale, which didn't happen. He claims you should only be allowed to go to Yale if you went to an elite college, which is not an actual definition. And in a single semester, through his hard work and stick-at-itness, he said, you know what? I've changed my mind about Ohio State.
I mean, Ohio State's a pretty... like, it's a state school that's, like, pretty well regarded, I think.
Yeah. He meets his wife there. She is very conservative, so it will shock you that I know that these elite institutions are full of nothing but Marxists and liberals, but a conservative man was able to meet a conservative woman.
They were probably the only two conservatives on campus, so they were naturally attracted to each other.
Yeah, that's right.
Only two conservatives at Yale, for sure.
At Yale, where there's never any conservatives. He referred to her as his Yale spirit guide, which is pretty wild to me.
Oh, yeah, that's... there could be some connotations we don't have to get into.
Yeah, I've heard that she's not white, but he's okay with that.
It's pretty offensive. One, you shouldn't say spirit guide at all. And two, this is a different kind of Indian.
Oh, man.
Right, yeah. I was thinking that, too. Like, is that why he said that?
He doesnn't know that there's a difference.
At least he didn't say spirit animal, that's another step.
That's worse. Yeah. That would be worse. He tells this My Fair Lady ass anecdote, and you guys already heard about it because I ranted about it for so long. But he tells the story of him going to this dinner where like all these employers are to meet you, and it's just like bullshit. Like, I don't know which is the salad fork. Like, I didn't know I was supposed to wear a suit. Like, all that kind of bullshit. And then he's like, they asked if I wanted sparkling or tap water. And I was like, that's so pretentious. That's so pretentious that they call their water sparkling if it's more expensive. And then he takes a drink of it and he spits it back out in front of everybody because he had never heard of carbonated water before.
I saw somebody post this excerpt on Twitter, and I thought it was like the couch fake thing. I thought it was fake. It's astonishing.
The bubbles are too spicy for him. He had to spit it out.
Yeah.
You're telling me you've never heard of sparkling water? You fucking liar. You go to Yale and you've never heard of sparkling water.
Yeah, hillbillies don't know about carbonation. They're not drinking Mountain Dew. Fucking idiot.
They will never drink San Pellegrino.
That's what he said it was. Like, so he could pick the fanciest name.
Mm-hmm.
Like, implied that he thought it was just tap water but pretentious, which is really funny to me.
I mean, he might be kind of right about that one.
The story, the writing is insane. I took one sip and literally spit it out. It was the grossest thing I'd ever tasted. I remember once getting a Diet Coke at a Subway without realizing that the fountain machine didn't have enough Diet Coke syrup. That's exactly what this fancy place's sparkling water tasted like. Something's wrong with that water, I protested. The waitress apologized and told me she'd get another Pellegrino. Something's wrong with it.
This man is like 27 years old.
The water hurt my tongue.
Water, you absolute fucking liar.
There's bugs in the water biting me.
He talks extensively about like soda mouth earlier. The implication that like poor people put like soda in their baby bottles and all their teeth are rotten. Mm-hmm. He talks about that earlier, and he's like, "But I've never heard of carbonation." There's a bunch of shit like, right after that, he gives a list of everything he didn't know going into Yale. Like, if you read down a little bit, he's like, "I didn't know there were different forks of blah blah blah." Like, I didn't know you couldn't wear your army greens to a job interview, and like a list of everything that he didn't know, and they're all just like extremely vague.
Yeah, he sees 9 utensils on his table space, and he like sneaks off and calls his girlfriend to tell him what to do.
First of all, just look at what everyone else is doing. And second of all, that did not happen. This is like the classic fake fish out of water bullshit story. Like, it's just like this happens in The Little Mermaid. I didn't know what a fork was.
Yeah, he needed a princess training from Julie Andrews.
Yeah. He was basically doing Pretty Woman. He was like,
yep.
I don't know.
Oh man, he should have got Gary Marshall to direct the Hillbilly Elegy movie. That would have been awesome. That would have been good.
I genuinely would love that. I love Gary Marshall. I fucking love The Princess Diaries.
Yeah,
it's offensive, but I don't care. And then he ends the book with a bunch of stuff about how lazy and stupid Appalachians are, basically. Mm-hmm. And the last thing in my notes is just a couple of books you should read instead.
Yeah, what should we read?
Yeah.
So there's a book called Appalachian Reckoning that was written kind of in response to this.
Nice.
And then I would also, it's called Appalachian Reckoning, A Region Responds to Hillbilly Elegy. And so it's basically like, it won a bunch of awards. It's a retort. It turns rigorous, critical, angry, and hopeful to the long shadow hillbilly elegy it's cast over the region and its imaginings. It also moves beyond to allow Appalachians from varied backgrounds to tell their own diverse and complex stories through a blend of scholarship, prose, poetry, and photography. So it's basically like kind of a profile of the region with people who actually live there and are not from Middletown, Ohio.
Do you think it has more than 21 citations? That's
I just was looking at that. I was like, what the fuck?
It's reviewed as like called a sociological profile.
Come on.
And it's like, you didn't do any research for this. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you are not an academic.
Memoir is definitely more accurate.
Memoir is absolutely more accurate. If you're wanting to read a like extremely awesome, crazy ass story, Educated by Tara Westover is incredible. So if you're actually wanting to read about Appalachia, read Appalachian Reckoning. If you're just wanting to read about like an absolutely insane upbringing, in like an isolated region of America, that one is fucking awesome. She never goes to school one single time. This is an actual fish out of water story. So she grows up in rural Idaho in a junkyard, and she has like an extremely Mormon family. And they homeschool every single kid, except for they don't ever do anything. She never ever goes to school. And then she ends up going to Harvard and Cambridge because she is like insanely, like she just teaches herself high school, and eventually is able to like, and it's a genuine fish out of water story because she's like never left Idaho. She doesn't know anything but Mormonism, and she's never been to school before. and she's like super gentle and like she is like clearly an actual academic who is looking at this with like the eyes of an academic. So she, like, the way that one is, like, there are no villains in this story. Like, she genuinely is, like, so compassionate about everyone around her and just, like, approaches things like a scientist who is curious about the world. Mm-hmm. It is fucking fantastic. I absolutely love it. Her family, it's so crazy. Her family ends up like her dad gets 3rd-degree burns from head to toe and isn't supposed to survive, but through the power of essential oils, he does. And so they start this like multi-million-dollar essential oil Idaho Mormon grift.
Yeah.
And like, it's fascinating. So these are what you should read instead if you're wanting to read like either a crazy memoir or something about this region. This one is just not good at all.
Yeah. Well, thank you for reading it.
Thank you.
I'm glad that someone did.
Is it any surprise that this guy turned out to be Trump's vice presidential pick? Like, this is like, it was foretold by the stars, I think.
Yeah. Well, we should probably start wrapping up because I got to go to work in a little bit. But we do have a voicemail that we received this week. Natalie, do you know about Ian Mallory? Have we talked about that?
I know about it from watching on social media. He's that cop in Iowa City, the real bad one.
Yes. He's got a bad reputation now. And this voicemail is about him. So let me just play that here.
Yo, Ian Mallory, let's shit it. I see, baby. I see, baby. I'm a cop. You need to listen. Ian is back with a new prosecution. Bucky grabs a hold of me tightly. I'm stealing phones daily and nightly. Am I a good cop? The answer is no. I see a tweet and I'm about to blow. Very extreme. I wear socks with a sandal. Beat a patine when I fly off the handle. Pants, gotta know what's in them. Only ones I respect are he, him, Dudley. When I hear a dope melody, 6'6" coming to give you a felony. Tweet it or like it, you better stop. Words hit bullseye on a Kansas cop. There's not a problem. Yo, I'll start it. Throw out the book when my DA solves it. I see, baby. Vanilla, I see, baby. Vanilla, I see, baby. Vanilla, I see, baby. Vanilla.
Thanks for calling in. Thanks to the caller for giving us that nice rap. Unfortunately, the instrumental on the voicemail itself, you couldn't really hear it, so I had to reconstruct that a little bit. So I also have to give thanks to Vanilla Ice himself for releasing the stems to Ice Ice Baby, so I could put that back together for us all.
Just the man for the job.
Yeah, and again, expressing solidarity with our friend Dan, who he spent a night in jail for tweeting about Ian Mallory. So that's kind of what part of that rap was about. If you would like to rap about your enemies for us, the phone number is 319-849-8733. I will look. I will put effort into reconstructing the instrumental tracks of any voicemails you send me, but don't make it too hard on me, please. Again, 319-849-8733. You could also mail us stuff if you like. Maybe you want to put your rap down on tape. You can mail us the tape. P.O. Box 5336 in Coralville, Iowa, 52241. I love receiving packages in our little box at the post office. It's a fun thing for me to do on my way home from work. Natalie, aside from those books, do you have anything you would like to plug?
No, I'm not doing anything.
Cool.
I do want to say sorry because I see the notes had the mysterious structure in Cedar Rapids.
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, you'll get to that because okay.
We love talking about the mysterious structures, so I'm sure we will talk about it again next week.
Yeah.
I just feel bad my yapping about J.D. Vance prevented mysterious structure discourse.
No. I always have more in the notes than we end up getting to.
I think you have an official invite to come back to talk about the mysterious structure.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm a libertarian for the mysterious structure. The government should not be able to tell you that you cannot build a mysterious structure in your yard.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a big parking lot with plenty of room for a mysterious structure. And he's solving the world's energy crisis, so let the man cook, as they say.
And you could be buzzing me about TikTok.
It just seeps into our culture, you know. That's for the culture. That's what JD Vance should write about. A culture in crisis.
We do have a Patreon for the podcast if you like it and you have money to spare. Unlike those damn hillbillies, always living above their means, you can spend.
They're putting the Patreon on layaway.
Hey, but if you're a hillbilly, we've always had the hillbilly offer, which is just email Justin and he'll send you all of the pods for free.
Yeah. It's called podcast welfare. Patreon.com/rockhardcaucus. There's a bunch of extra stuff on there, like our recent review of Slipknot's album The Gray Chapter with the POD cast, John Colin and Brian Quimby. That's a good one. Tony and I are also reading a really good book right now, which we will be reviewing soon. It's called The Laura Sue Chronicles Beginnings by Ken Penders.
Yeah, you can't judge a book by its cover, but I know that one's good.
Yeah, you can, if your judgment is positive, you can judge a book by its cover. I think that's a corollary to that rule. I also want to plug Autonomy Iowa City because the 6-week abortion ban is now in effect in Iowa, but that doesn't mean you can't get an abortion. It just means that they're putting up roadblocks and making it a pain in the ass for people who desperately need medical interventions. If you go to autonomyiowacity.org, there are some resources there to get what you need. There's also the Iowa Abortion Access Fund, which is at iowaabortionaccessfund.org, doing the same kind of work. Another thing I want to mention is that as of now, there's no one on the ballot for Johnson County Auditor in the upcoming election, so feel free to write me in for that. I don't want to do the job. I won't do the job. But if I am elected, I will fill the seat and see what happens. Johnson County Auditor. And as we mentioned earlier, I'm going to end today's episode with this is like a remix of a song that's very popular on TikTok right now, which all
the time.
Which uses an old quote of JD Vance's where he said, "I'm a never Trump guy," and so. It's sort of pointing out, this guy who hated Trump, called him Hitler a few years ago, is now his running mate. So enjoy this song. If you, like me, are too old and crotchety to be on TikTok, this is just a glimpse at what's going on over there. Natalie, it was awesome having you back on the show. Thank you for joining us again.
Thanks for listening to me yap about this horrible book.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Of course.
See you later.
So this is really who Donald Trump chose as his running mate?
Drop the beat.
I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. 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 I never liked him. I never liked him. I never liked racism. I'm a never Trump guy. Xenophobia. I'm a never Trump guy. Racism. I'm a never Trump guy. Xenophobia. I'm a never Trump guy. I never liked him. I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. 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 I never liked him. I'm a never Trump guy. 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 I never liked him.